Hey everyone, it's Zed again. This time I'm going to be going over the basics of army composition. Now, there's a lot to this topic, more than I can cover in a single video without boring you to death. So for now, I'm just going to be going over some of the fundamentals regarding troop types and tier, as well as how your armies choose to arrange themselves during a battle. Hopefully, with this information, it will make more sense to you when you read recommended army compositions. Like this. I don't know about you, but when I first started playing War and Order, I'd see these and just be lost. Even in odd-tiered troops? Just sending a single troop? Why? Well, after much research and random button pushing, I finally started to figure it all out. So let's start by looking at troop types and tiers to help explain it. So you have four basic troop types: infantry, cavalry, archers, and mages. There are, of course, also angels and golems, but those are another topic for another day. For now, let's just look at these four main troop types. Now, as you upgrade your barracks, you'll see that you can train higher tier troops, or level of troops, from tier 1 up to tier 13. Now, as you get higher troops, you'll notice that the ones that have an odd number tier, like 1, 3, 5, and so on, are all human, whereas the troops that have an even tiered number, like 2, 4, and 6, are all mythical creatures, orcs, elves, and dragons. Now, their species is just the first difference when it comes to even and odd tiered troops. They also have different skills. Let's take a look at an even and odd tiered infantry. Now, the odd tiered infantry has a skill called blockade, which raises their HP when they're in battle as the defender, which makes them better for defense, or when you're the one being attacked. Now, the even-tiered orc infantry has a different special skill called mage resistance. This reduces the amount of damage that these even-tiered infantry take when facing off against mages. These different skills between even and odd-tiered troops applies to all four of your main troop types, though each one has a different skill for even and odd-tiered troops. But typically, your odd-tiered troops are going to have skills that work best for defense, and your even-tiered troops will have skills best suited for offense. You definitely want to keep this in mind when you're setting up your march for an attack. Even if your highest tier troops are an odd tier, let's say tier 7, it may actually make more sense to send your highest even tier troops, let's say tier 6, since they're going to have skills that are better suited for attacking. Now, another way that these even and odd tiers come into play is how your troops arrange themselves once they go into battle. Now, you may have noticed that when you're selecting which troops to add to your march, you can't dictate what order they'll be in, only how many of which type you can send. This is because they will automatically arrange themselves into a formation once the battle begins based on a few principles. First, your infantry and your cavalry will go into the front row of your formation, with the archers and mages going to the back row. The front row troops have higher defense stats and can take more damage, whereas the back row troops have much lower defense but have much more powerful attacks. Basically, your front row troops are there to take the brunt of the damage and protect your heavy hitting back row, allowing them time to do the damage they need to win the battle. The second way that your troops will automatically arrange themselves is by troop type and by whether they are even or odd tiered. You can see here we have 8 groups on the battlefield. This is because we send an army that contains both even and odd tiers of each of the 4 main troop types, which means it splits itself into a total of 8 groups during battle. If you send a march that only contains 1 tier of each troop type, then you will end up with only 4 groups on the battlefield. This means your opponent only has 4 targets to hit instead of 8. The more targets you create for your enemy, the more moves it will take for them to eliminate those targets, giving your army more time to take the opponent down. Why this is important is because the battle system in War and Order is turn-based. That means that both your opponent's army and your army each take turns hitting just one target at a time. So let's say you're fighting a single monster, like you see on the screen here. That monster can only hit one of the groups of your troops in a single turn. Then your troops will have a chance to take their turns before that monster gets another chance. So if you have 8 groups of troops that are on the battlefield, this means that the monster can only attack one of those groups, while all 8 of those groups get a chance to attack it back. As you can imagine, this is much more efficient than if you only send a troop formation that would result in 4 groups on the battlefield. So now let's go back to that crazy troop setup we saw in the beginning and apply what we now know about our troops to decipher what any of that means. So here we're setting up an army to face one of the fire demons during territory defense, and they are resistant to mages, which means we don't want to send a bunch of mages at it. They won't do a lot of damage. So here's what we're going to do. Let's start with our front row troops, infantry and cavalry. The recommendation here is that you send 25 to 35% infantry. This is to create a good defensive line to protect your back row troops during the fight. In this case, I'd recommend sending 1 even-tiered infantry and then the rest odd-tiered infantry. You will be the defender in the battle since technically you're reinforcing one of the alliance flags, so odd-tiered infantry will give you that defensive boost. Next, it's recommended that you send 1 odd and 1 even-tiered cavalry. Why not more cavalry? Well, in battle, cavalry like to die really easily, so they don't actually do a lot of good in a fight. But they have the highest load capacity, which makes them good for both gathering resources and any plunder that you get from raiding another castle. So it's good to keep some cavalry on hand, just not to send them off into battle. Now, let's move on to the recommendations for our back row troops. We'll skip over the angels since we're not covering them in this video. But remember, the fire demon is resistant to mages, so we don't want to send a lot of them. But we do still want to create those additional targets for the enemy to have to defeat. So we're going to send 1 even and 1 odd tiered. After that, we're going to fill in the rest of the march with archers. And again, since we will be the defender in this situation, then we want to send just 1 even tiered and then the rest odd tiered archers to get that defensive bonus and from those odd tiered troops. So I hope that this breakdown really helps you get a sense of what some of these recommended troop setups mean and help you decipher as you're going through online and seeing all these different recommendations, which ones actually make sense and which ones don't.